gentlemen, and welcome to our first, let's call it debriefy inside Tack show from the preliminary regatta down in Barcelona. We've had our first race day today. We had 4 match races in total, and we had a match against American Magic, obviously from the USA, and we're super lucky to be joined to debrief and review that race with sailing team manager, head of sailing operations, Giles Scott, and one of our legendary cyclors, Ben Cornish. So we're going to talk through that race specifically. We've just been through all our debriefs with our performance team, with our coaches, and we're just going to open up the doors a little bit with you and share the learnings that we've had through that day. But to first run through the scores from the day, the first race was France versus Alinghi, which Alinghi went on to win. The next match was a repeat of the 36th America's Cup match where New Zealand raced Prada, and Prada pulled out in that race when their boat shut down, and that point went to New Zealand. We then raced American Magic, where American Magic took the point off us, and the final match of the day was when Prada recovered their boat shutting down and beat the French. So quite a busy day, lads. It's arrived. We've been talking about it for long enough. And Giles, what conditions did we have?
You did well remembering all that.
Do you know that was a real struggle?
You did well. I wouldn't have been able to keep up with that.
No, I was a bit fried, but I got there.
You did.
I got there. Giles, it was the first day of it's preliminary regattas, so we're not racing for points on the scoreboard. It's kind of pre-season friendly time, but we're racing for kind of sporting momentum. What conditions met us here in Barcelona, chap?
Well, it was awesome day. I think the sea breeze kicked in, the southwesterly here, which is, I suppose, about as good as the conditions get here. It can fill in and be 20 knots. Today it was more like 14. Sea state was a little bit on the trickier side. Well, you'd be best placed to talk on that.
It wasn't flat, but we've had that easterly swell, haven't we, for the last 2 or 3 days, which is starting to die out now. And today it was more wind-driven, sort of chop and sea state. Not flat water, but flat enough for these big boats to manage.
Yeah.
Not too far off glamour conditions.
Not too far off glamour. We don't say champagne sailing in any of these pods. That phrase is absolutely banned. And Giles, we went into the third match. We had kind of a lot of conversations with our match racing coach, Ian Williams, our pre-start coach, around what we might expect from American Magic. We obviously recon them with their match racing setup. As we know, all teams are looking at us. We had our plans. Off the line, I want sort of even Stevens. Did we have a slight speed edge? How did you see the pre-start playing out, bud?
Yeah, I think off the line, it was actually, I think, more to us. The Americans were in a nice spot, but they just didn't quite get their final trigger right. You saw that windward roll, leeward foil, skid out the water, which just put them slightly on the back foot and enabled us to dig ourselves out of what could have been quite a tricky spot. But as soon as you've got a speed delta on your competitor in these boats, you're so strong.
Exactly, and let's do a little bit of hand karate here. We're leading out to the left-hand boundary.
Yeah.
We were on top of them, and we tacked first and got out to the right. Cornish, take it up from there.
Yeah, I mean, we just had it there on the screen, but as you say, we came up the line in reasonable shape. A big effort from the cyclor squad in this scenario is actually getting these sails sheeted on. That final wind-up, getting out the line. We're dealing with quite high tonnages through the mainsail and the jib. So that last push is, it's a solid effort from the boys on board.
Come on, give the people at home like numbers of wattages. You're into 4 figures, aren't you? Getting that main sheet on off the line.
Yeah, there'll be glimmers at 4 figures for sure.
Yeah.
And then like Giles says, it's that drag out to the left-hand boundary where kind of the pivotal decision of how long you hang on there, or at what point you decide to tack out and start pushing your VMG numbers.
So here we go, Giles, with 8 seconds to go until the gun. I think we get a shot down the line. This is what you were just saying here, right?
Yeah, exactly. You can just see there that we're nicely wound up, and the Americans just have that windward roll. And the moment that you see the leeward foil pierce out a long way like you saw there, the boat skidding sideways and losing aero power, and
Yep.
that just leads to that windward roll and the touchdown, which obviously slows them down quite a lot.
Yeah, right. So we've come off the line, we've tacked off the boundary, we come back from the right, and the first cross goes to us. They
Yeah.
duck behind us and go to the right at the top. What happened at that point at the top of the first upwind?
Well, I think the course generally here, it's not always the case, but the right can be quite strong in these southwesterlies. So there's power in getting to the right hand side of your competitor. You see here we were on the right. We let out, did a good job there. Got the cross and got bounced off the boundary. And here the Americans then just dig slightly further into that, bit more righty, and just get the cross at the top here.
Yeah, they went and hit that right boundary and made ley lines. So they did that first upwind doing just 2 tacks, is that correct?
Yes.
Off boundary,
you're
ley
right.
line.
Yeah.
And we did 3. Not that was the main difference, but do you think the cross came from then kind of hitting that top right corner?
Yeah, it's tricky with this type of racing, with the boundaries, especially when you have a course that has a side that pays, because you can't. In traditional racing, you can dig all the way into a corner and come in and do 1 tack on
That was you in the
ley
fin,
line.
wasn't it, mate? You go and ring the bell out in a corner. Good lad.
A few less tacks.
Yeah. Whereas on this, you've got to pick your moments to get to the favoured side, because wherever you go, you're always at some point going to be bounced back the other way. And as it panned out for the Americans here, as you say, they did it in 2 tacks.
And then I was listening to the onboard comms on the first downwind, and there was comms about whether we were going to have a piece, whether there was a crossing each way, incredibly close halfway down that first downwind, right, Ben?
Yeah, it was really close. I mean, the split at the top sort of set us up for the gain the Americans had up the beat, sort of gave us a little bit back out the top mark. You know, we got the nice pressure coming down into the beach, which set up for that close moment you're talking about.
Yeah.
I guess as soon as they did make that cross, they get very strong. You know, their then left side coming into the bottom mark.
Yeah.
And I don't think we've seen so far a boat recover with another pass. I think we're starting to see, you know, once you're strong and in front, you get to pick the fastest lane up the next leg.
Yes.
And it then puts the chasing boat a bit on the back foot.
Yeah.
Almost starting to roll the dice, looking for something that's not always there.
Yeah, so trying to kind of force splits out of leeward gates, not necessarily going the right way that you'd want to if you were the boat in the lead.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we talk a lot about if there was no other boat on the course, what would be the fastest way to sail? And once you have the lead, you can effectively treat your race like that. Once you're following in this sort of scenario, you've got to go looking for something.
Yeah, yeah, and all credit to the Americans, they did a very good job of shutting down our tactical options, and it was a kind of a slow twist of a shutdown of a race, really, Giles.
Yeah, it was, and I think, you know, with the way the race course is here, that it's you know, today it was reasonably right hand favoured, and all teams would have known that and been trying to work to the same, I suppose, tactics ultimately. And I think what we've seen is that the races have been being shut down around about the first bottom gate. It's pretty rare to see a pass on, you know, through the race from the second beat onwards. So I think in this race, particularly from our point of view, this first cross on the downwind was really a super critical one, because the guys did a great job of getting the right turn there and digging into the favoured side. And as you say, it was a real close cross for the Americans to get in front on that port downwind. And from there, they laid in and
we followed round, didn't we? We followed round on that first leeward gate, early tack, and they did a nice job of traditional covering that everyone has grown up doing, whatever racing that you're doing. And from that point on, the kind of lead yo-yoed between sort of 15 and 30 seconds in and out, depending on sort of pressure and phasing of the breeze. And we're in that round where we're looking for them to have a little wobble, and they did have a little wobble in their last windward mark, recovered it well, but it goes to show to people watching these boats with these amazing shots for the first time just how hard they are to control, Ben, on the foils and the pitch and everything as you're turning down and accelerating. What's going on here on board the Americans, chap?
Yeah, I mean, we didn't see this on the water, but just watching it now for the first time. You know, it's the choreography of getting the foil trim and the sail trim right. You know, the boats are sailing upwind with a bit of negative leeway, we call it. We're effectively crabbing to windward. And through that turn down, that's something you need to manage. So you're adjusting the cant of the foil as you're trying to turn the boat away from the wind. Trying to get all those forces aligned. And you see here, you get it slightly wrong, and the boat doesn't want to go where the helms are turning it. So it's, you know, it's critical moments at different trims.
Yeah, right. So, and from that point, the Americans recovered very well, went on to take the victory between 25 and 30 seconds. I can't quite remember. And Giles, we move on again tomorrow with a race in race 2 against New Zealanders. Our kind of head of sailing team operations, we know that we're not racing for round robin points right now.
Yeah.
With my football head on, these are pre-season friendlies, but we're trying to build sporting momentum. We're trying to learn. We're trying to balance. It's a funny little balance, right?
It's a full-on balancing act because, of course, we want to win races. That goes without saying. But equally, it's a bit of a poker game in terms of not wanting to show your full hand too quickly in a competition. So every team out there is going to be playing a little bit of smoke and mirrors, which will evolve throughout the next 3, 4, 5 weeks. But yeah, for sure, I think with looking forward to the Kiwis tomorrow, they're obviously a super tough team and quick and ultimately the benchmark for the fleet. So yeah, it'd be nice to give them a little nudge.
And you've just been in the planning meeting with Cappy, our weather forecaster. A little insight into what we might be looking at for tomorrow, forecast-wise?
Yeah, so I think tomorrow is, do you know what? I've had a bit of a mind blank. Fred, remind me, what have we got tomorrow? You were in it as well.
Yeah, I was there as well. It was 10 to 14, similar-ish to today. We'll start light, so the first race might be quite light, and by the time we get on at sort of 2:30, sort of 10 to 14.
Yeah, so maybe a slight click, maybe slightly a click down, but largely the same. Might see some different sails up on the yachts for tomorrow. But yeah, similar again.
Yeah, so we've opened up the questions to our viewers, and we've got a question from Mark here, and it's a question for you, Ben, because you are a cyclor. How hard is the 2-minute pre-start for the cyclors?
It's hard. It's definitely hard.
Yeah.
I mean, it really varies. Depends what sort of set plays we roll into in the pre-start. As you saw today, the Americans they went into a full circle, so they 360'd, and then followed on from there. I mean, today for us, it was, I mean, if you're going to put it in percentage, it was probably an 80% effort for the 4 cyclors on board. And saying that, we hit the line, trimmed on nicely and with a bit of accumulator in the bank. So, yeah, I mean, well managed with the effort.
And Giles got a question here from Alan. What does the data show you about the time you lost the American Magic on the downwind? I mean, there's a lot of people looking at data in the building behind you right now. I think that's a great question. Like, how much are we looking at that race, pulling it apart and stepping forwards for tomorrow?
Yeah, I mean, there's a whole army of guys up in the building behind us here looking at every bit of data, not just from our own yacht, but also from the footage that everyone's seen. I mean, for us, it's actually watching the general public's video stream is really interesting, because up until now we've had very limited exposure to what each yacht is actually capable of.
Yeah.
We've done a lot of sailing in Barcelona in and around each other, but the way the rules are written, we can't really properly line up like you would do when you're training in any other yacht. The protocol doesn't allow it. So yeah, there's a lot going on up there, and I think with the downwinds, and that we certainly look a lot at the deltas in terms of lap times and leg times against our competitors. Where the tricky part comes is really trying to dig into what those deltas mean and where the deficits or the gains come from, because like any yacht race, the gains can come tactically, wind shift, more pressure, or from a boat that's faster, and of course it's pretty tricky to really accurately pick that all apart. So,
in answer to Alan's question, a lot, but just trying to unpick everything is the tricky bit.
Yeah, and I think from what I saw, I don't think there was a hugely worrying delta in the downwind performance against the Americans, especially. I think the way that the race set up, they were stepping away a little bit on the upwinds, and maybe had a click of speed against us.
Yeah.
But because they got in the lead, they were then able to step to the right side of the course and make make gains on shift and pressure. So yeah, a lot to unpick.
Yeah, nice little summary of the day, lads. Thanks, lads. We've been talking about sailing non-stop, well, for the whole day, but picking that race apart for the last couple of hours. So thanks a lot for coming and sharing our debrief thoughts on our first day at the preliminary regatta. As I said, we are racing again tomorrow against the America's Cup defenders. As Giles aptly put it, the barometer that we all measure ourselves against, as they are the defenders, in 10 to 14 knots. So make sure that you tune in whichever way you watch the racing and support INEOS Britannia tomorrow. And we'll be back tomorrow for another episode of the Inside Tack.